This is the brand new M.Zuiko 90mm f3.5 macro lens from OM System. You might hear that macro and think that means this is some hyper-specialized lens that's only really for close-ups of, I don't know, things like bugs. Which it totally is, and it's actually really good at that stuff, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But because of some nifty features built into the lens itself, combined with the form factor and micro four thirds sensor of OM System cameras, this 90mm lens is also a seriously flexible pure telephoto lens that is fully weather sealed, capable of up to 7 stops of image stabilization, and with an MC20 teleconverter, also capable of an 8 times full frame equivalent magnification. Which means, yes, it can also take those super close-up photos of bugs. But we can't talk about what makes this 90mm macro lens so great without talking a little about micro four thirds sensors. There's more than a few full-frame photographers out on the interwebs that will tell you that a cropped sensor with a typically less shallow depth of field will never be as good as a full-frame camera with a lens that can shoot at f0.00001. But when it comes to macro photography, this script gets flipped on its head. Right off the bat, the 90mm focal length on the M.Zuiko Pro is a 180mm full-frame equivalent, and the smaller pixel density on a micro four thirds sensor means you'll be getting more detail in your macro shots than you would by cropping into a full-frame image. You also get a super short minimum focusing distance. In the case of the 90mm lens, it's as low as 22.4 centimeters. And that deeper depth of field is actually a boon for macro photographers when working with very tiny subjects, and OM System's in-camera focus stacking feature only makes this benefit even greater. Finally, while shooting macro photography on a tripod may be all hunky-dory, shooting macro handheld is nearly impossible without some seriously robust image stabilization. Which is why it's so great that the M.Zuiko 90mm gets up to 7 stops of image stabilization when paired to a compatible OM System camera with IBIS, such as the OM1. But while we're still aboard the micro four thirds appreciation train, we should also mention that micro four thirds lenses are almost always smaller and lighter than full frame or APS-C lenses, and this holds true for the 90mm macro as well. It weighs only 453 grams and has a width of just under 70mm and a length of 136mm. It's rated at IP53 for weatherproofing and features a fluorine coating to protect against fingerprints, dirt, and moisture. On the lens itself, you have your customizable lens function button along with IS on-off switch, and above those you have your focus limiting switch. This will enable you to quickly go from telephoto to macro photos easily by designating what you want your focusing parameters to be. You get 25 centimeters to infinity on the right side, 25 to 50 centimeters in the middle, and then S macro all the way to the left. With this enabled, you can fully take advantage of that 22.4 centimeter minimum focusing distance and truly get right up next to your subject. The lens features snappy autofocus performance alongside the immensely satisfying to use manual focus clutch, which slides down and gives you instant access to manual focusing distance parameters. This will also override any autofocus you have set up, which essentially allows you to instantly switch between autofocus and precise manual focus on the fly. But maybe you're the sort of macro shooter who scoffs at a mere 4 times full frame equivalent magnification in a 90mm lens and demands double that magnification. First off, that's a little aggressive, calm down. But second off, OM System still has you covered with their MC20 teleconverter. This device attaches between the camera body and the lens and doubles the already impressive focal length and maximum magnification of the lens, meaning that this 90mm micro four thirds lens can become the equivalent of a 360mm full frame lens. This cuts into your aperture and minimum focusing distance slightly, but the level of magnification you can get on a subject at this focal distance is mind-boggling. The M.Zuiko 90mm f3.5 is a great macro lens that is actively enhanced by the micro four thirds system it's a part of. It's lightweight, weather sealed, and rugged, and it features an especially tight minimum focusing distance and impressive image stabilization, both of which are essential for any macro shooter who plans to take their camera off a tripod. OM System has positioned their cameras as the rugged outdoor brand, and with this pro-level 90mm lens, they have fully embraced outdoor macro shooters with their largest focal length macro lens to date. Bug shooters rejoice. But what do you think of the M.Zuiko 90mm f3.5 macro lens, and what non-six-legged things would you take pictures of? Let us know in the comments below. I'm Nick with B&H. Stay creative.